by phone. And I'm not visual, so I can see you all on my screen, but you can't see me. So I apologize, especially for the new members who have not had a chance to formally meet. And so I want to welcome two new members elected by the council last month, I guess. Miss Kenitha Carr and Miss Malika Clinscales. I don't know if I guess I can see Malika on the screen and is, let's see, and do I see, is Kenitha on the screen too? I guess I have to rotate my screens here or something. Yes, there you are. Okay, so welcome to the board. As I say, this is unusual times, an unusual way to meet. I'm sure you've had many meetings by this, but it's worked for us in the past, and but I regret that you can't get to know myself and the other members of the board. There are 7 of us, and I think we're all in attendance here today. So at this time, I'm going to ask our assistant Sarah McGehee to do a roll call of the members.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. The Health and Educational Facilities Board of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee, will be held in accordance with Executive Order Number 16, signed by Governor Bill Lee on March 20th, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 34, signed by Governor Bill Lee on May 6, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 51, signed by Governor Bill Lee on June 29th, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 60, signed by Governor Bill Lee on August 28th, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 65, signed by Governor Bill Lee on October 28th, 2020, allowing a governing body to hold meetings by electronic or other means of communication without a quorum being physically present if the governing body determines that meeting by electronic means is necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other related epidemics, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public and members of the governing body. All votes taken during this meeting will be by a roll call vote. All right. Now we'll take roll. Mr. Meyer.
Present.
Dr. Aday.
Present.
Ms. Baldwin.
Present.
Ms. Carr.
Present.
Ms. Clinkscales.
Present.
Mr. Moth.
Here.
Ms. Sharpe.
Here.
Everyone from the board is here.
Okay. Do you, Sarah, have a list of others present on this call, or can you identify, or should we have them identify themselves?
I have a list of others who are currently attending the meeting.
Okay. Well, you want to call their names and see who is with us?
We have Evan Holladay.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Joshua Haston.
Sorry, guys, I'm here.
Perfect. Taylor Caleb.
I am here.
Perfect. Larry Stewart.
Present.
Perfect. And then Elise from Elmington.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. And that is everyone.
Okay. Anybody else present that we haven't called? Okay. Thank you all for attending and being here. Okay. So the first order of business is we don't have a waiver to sign, but that will be taken care of. The notice was published in the newspaper. We have minutes that were mailed to us. Those of us who were, well, you probably new members got them too, but those who were present at the, excuse me. The meeting of October 26, 2020. We have minutes from that meeting. Is there any questions or discussion about those minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Move approval.
Move approval by Mr. Moth, Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Anybody, again, have any questions, discussions, or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes by that are presented indicate by saying aye. Or we never get to call the
Sarah
roll.
needs to
Sorry.
call roll. Yes.
Right. Okay. I'm getting away with myself. Go ahead, Sarah. Call the roll on the minutes.
Dr. Aday? Do you approve of the minutes?
I'm sorry, yes, you were breaking up. Yes, I approve.
Ms. Baldwin?
Yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Klingscales?
Yes.
Mr. Moth?
Approve.
Ms. Sharpe?
Yes.
Perfect. Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
All right. Everyone approved of the minutes.
Okay. Minutes stand approved as presented. The first matter before us is consideration of the request of 619 at Old Stonebridge Crossings for not to exceed $43 million in multifamily housing bonds. This is a housing development, and I believe this is the one located in Goodlettsville. So do we have? Is it Evan Holladay going to present this?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, Evan.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Everybody, I appreciate your time today. It's good to be back. I think the last time I was in front of you all was last spring. So it's been a minute. But yeah, so my company, Holladay Ventures, we specialize in workforce and attainable housing development. I had actually previously worked with LDG Development, and that's where I worked a lot with the Health and Education Facilities Board on previous projects. So this project specifically, we're in the early stages. We're still going through rezoning, but we have great support from the city council member who is the Metro council member for Nashville, Davidson County. We've been working closely with him. It sits on about 20 acres right on North Main Street, which is kind of like the main thoroughfare right through downtown Goodlettsville. It's actually just north of their downtown area. So we've been working with the city manager, director of economic development, the city planning commission, head of planning, the planning director. Everybody's really, really excited about this project because of a few different reasons. One, they're getting a lot more attention, a lot more attraction, a lot more people moving up to Goodlettsville, and there's not really, housing is not keeping pace with Goodlettsville and their growth that they're seeing. They just had Amazon announced recently. Dollar General continues expanding. They're getting more and more hotels up there. A lot more people are wanting to move that direction, but haven't found that quality place to call home. And so the city is very excited about something that's actually brand new, that's going to be priced at an attainable price point. So a little bit of background on the project. It will be a mixed-use development, so there will be some commercial frontage area on the fronting area addressing Main Street, and then behind that and above that will be all 60% AMI workforce attainable housing. We'll be working with THDA to do 4% tax credits with the tax-exempt bonds, and then we're also working with a very hilly site. So the city also sees this as, hey, this is an opportunity to revitalize and energize and give life to 20 acres that are right near their downtown, but have never really ever seen any development because it has such a hilly topography. So we're able to, the way we're designing our site, we're able to I think we're keeping like 6 acres of green space. So we're able to really create that greenery feel. So our residents are able to live in a really beautiful nature-driven community, but also have that mixed-use component where we're having the commercial space on the front edge and the residential. We're gonna have 1, 2s, and 3s in the back with square footage of the units ranging from, I think it's 850 square feet up to about 1,250 square feet. Really the goal here is we're trying to make something that is going to make Goodlettsville proud and something that can be a model for attainable housing in Goodlettsville and Davidson County. So it's still very early stages. Like I said, we're going through rezoning now. We'll likely, if all goes well with permitting and zoning and entitlement and with THDA, we'll likely close end of 21 or early 2022. Are there any questions I can answer for anybody?
Evan, this looks like a really exciting project, and you were breaking up just a little bit, so I wasn't sure if you said the percentage of AMI that you were targeting. You could just speak to that. Also, I noticed that you're going to have about 300 or so, 312 units. About what percentage of those do you think will be affordable versus market rent, if any will be at market rent?
Yeah, great question. Sorry for the breaking up. So first question was, as far as the number of units at affordability, they'll all be at 60% area median income. That will be same as Nashville, Davidson County. It's in Davidson County, it's just right on the edge in Goodlettsville. And then as far as the mixture of the units, this will be all workforce attainable housing, all within the tax credit program. And then we're also the commercial component on the front. We're actually, so we're not including in our pro forma that will have income. So we're trying to figure out how we can help enliven that commercial frontage by giving opportunities to our residents to be able to help them start businesses or you know, kind of create like an entrepreneur hub or a co-working place alongside maybe a coffee shop and like an artist studio. Really just trying to, it's 7,500 square feet. So we have a lot of room to play with of really enlivening that frontage and creating opportunities for our residents and that true mixed use where they can, you know, walk from their unit right down to the coffee shop.
Ethan, this is Myers. Is that going to be financed as part of this project, or is that a separate financing? The commercial part.
So the shell of the building will be included, but not the build out of the commercial space.
And how is it? Is it adjoined, sit in front of? How's it connected to the whole project?
Right. So it's the first floor of the residential buildings that address the Main Street. So it's just two buildings that address Main Street. It'll just be the first floor of those buildings, and then above that it'll be a residential building. So it'll really just be commercial square footage within the first floor of a residential building.
Further questions? Here we do have a resolution that's before us that was mailed to you that would approve this. We do need to have a public hearing on this, and so at this time I'm going to ask if there's anybody here or present, I guess, in this meeting who wishes to speak for or against this project. If so, indicate by speaking now. Okay, not hearing anyone expressing a desire to speak, we'll close the public hearing, which is required by federal law. And of course, for our new members, it's generally, we don't usually have anyone to speak, but it's certainly welcome. We welcome anyone and anybody that wants to comment or question or whatever about these projects. We always have a public hearing before on at least initial application. Okay, so we have no one wishing to speak. We'll close the public hearing. And as I say, we have a resolution that was mailed to us. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution to give preliminary approval? And by preliminary approval, we mean they could take this to the Tennessee Housing Development Agency as their indication that bonds would be issued, but they'll have to come back to this board for final approval, of which time we would actually vote to issue the bonds. This is to give preliminary approval to this project, which allows them to take it to further process it and get approval for Tennessee House Development Agency to issue tax credits for this project, which I guess will be sometime next year, I think. Is that correct, Evan?
Correct.
So anyone wish to make a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved, approved, and seconded. Okay. Any further discussion on this issue? If not, Sarah, will you take a roll call vote on this, please, on the resolution?
Dr. Aday,
Yes. Approved.
Ms. Baldwin,
Aye, yes.
Ms. Carr,
Approve, yes.
Ms. Clinkscales,
Approve.
Mr. Moth,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpe,
Yes.
Chairman Meyer.
Yes.
That is a 7-0 with the approval.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Evan. I guess you have another project then. Are you doing Shelby House also?
Yes, I'm back up. Thank you for that on 619. So transitioning to Shelby House, this is right on the corner of 5th and Shelby, right as you enter into East Nashville. It's a really transformative project for East Nashville. We've been working on it for about a year and a half now with the councilman, and a little background on the project. Samaritan Recovery Community is a substance abuse recovery nonprofit that is operated on about 4.3 acres, basically the whole block from 4th to 5th along Shelby. And they've done phenomenal work for Middle Tennessee, providing that substance abuse recovery service. Their clients are indigent or homeless. Usually they're covered by some state funding, but they take them from, completely addicted to all the way back, helping them get back into society, finding a job, finding independence. So they do really great work. And they've operated there at the same buildings for since the 60s. And so really they were looking at, they're like, how can we help expand our services and also be able to keep our operation in place while we expand our services, stay in the same location, and also be able to enhance and further our mission, combining that with affordable housing. And so we were able to work alongside with our partners, Samaritan Recovery Community, to create a plan that really was able to accomplish all that. So we're expanding their facilities so that they can double their services. And then also in the process, over 2 phases, building 468 mixed income affordable apartments right there on that 4.5 acres. So phase 1 would include their brand new SRC facility that they will operate their nonprofit services out of. And then it will also include 193 workforce and affordable housing units that will range from 30% AMI up to 80% AMI. And those, it'll be an urban style development, 4-story with an elevator. They'll have the full amenity package with a courtyard and a fitness center and a clubhouse. And we really see this as like a symbiotic relationship between SRC and the workforce affordable component. They are going to be 2 separate buildings, but it'll be, we want to help people transition from that substance abuse recovery and then work their way into workforce housing on their own. And so we're early stages, or should say about midway through our process, our pre-development process. And this would likely be a May of 21 closing, starting on construction. We've been working with various people with Councilman Davidson. He's very supportive. He's helped us rezone the land, rezone the site to allow for this mixed use ability. We've worked with NDHA very closely. We're also working with the mayor's office and a few other council members at large, as well as THDA. We already have a $900,000 National Housing Trust Fund grant awarded to this project. And then we're planning on applying for 4% tax credits and bonds in January of 21, and with a likely closing in May of 21. I'll take any questions if anybody has anything.
So as I understand it, there's an existing Samaritan place going on right now, and you're going to build a new building for them and some housing around that.
That
And
is
then-
correct.
And then you're going to eventually tear down the old building and put housing there.
Yep, that's correct. We'll build phase 2 once we move them out of their old building into the new building.
That'll be a separate project, of course.
Correct. Yeah, we'll come to the board again for that project.
And I'm not, is this a residential facility, a recovery facility? Do people stay there? Is it like a hospital type, or how do you describe it?
It's more, it's not like an institutional style building. It's more of like it's more services oriented, where they have different levels of their rehabilitation program. So they have, I think it's 5 different levels, and the first is very intensive, where it's you stay 30 days, you're there, overnight, you stay the entire 30 days. And then the next phase is 4 to 8 week program where you're allowed to leave occasionally. But really there's no leases signed. It's not like a typical residential, but people are going to be staying there for their services, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry, you said people are staying there?
Yes, correct. So people stay there while they're receiving the rehabilitation services and the counseling and the guidance, but they aren't signing leases like a typical affordable housing. So their space is like a service oriented nonprofit space, if you will. And then there's also a residential component, which is the more standard affordable workforce housing.
Evan, is this sort of a parallel to Cumberland Heights, but maybe more affordable?
I'm not exactly sure. I have to know more about Cumberland Heights, sorry.
So I may not be hearing it right, and this may be the wrong question, but it sounds like under the banner of Your One LLC, we're issuing a bond to accomplish 2 things, and I think just the complementarity of those 2 things is not clear. Can a person with 60% or below AMI income walk up to the leasing office and apply for a slot, or is the focus really on the folks who have come through the rehabilitation program occupying those slots?
Good question. So they're simultaneous services. So we have 1 building for the residential and 1 building for the nonprofit. They're technically, like you said, they're one entity that's going to build and own both buildings. It'll be technically a condo structure. Does that answer your question?
I'm happy.
So right now, as I say, do people come and stay there for 30 days or some period of time? Do they have people in the facility for extended stay?
Correct. Yeah, it's anywhere from 30 days to 6 months.
30 days to 6 months. And so that would be similar in the new building, but will they use some of the housing that is being built around it, or will they still be in this facility, whatever? I don't know. What do they have housing now, or is it part of a institution, I guess you'd say, one building?
Yeah, I would classify it all their current services and the services they're planning on offering continued and expanded services in the new building is more, I guess, like what you would think of as institutional, where they come in for the services. They don't come in for necessarily the housing. They come in for the housing as a byproduct of the services. But then we will be operating 193 separate from that building. We're operating 193 workforce.
And do you see any people who go through the recovery program coming into the housing units?
Yes, definitely. That's a big part of our goal. Is we want to help people graduate up the ladder and get into workforce and affordable housing as kind of the next step toward their independence.
And your company will own and manage these apartments. You will have, I assume, little or nothing. I mean, who owns the rehab center? I mean, is that a nonprofit or?
Yes, that's American Recovery Community. They've operated.
Are you owning the building and leasing it to them then?
So the partnership, yes, the partnership will own the whole building and lease that space to American Recovery Community, and then they will also be part of the partnership ownership group.
Part of the, what did you say? Part of the partnership,
Correct.
the nonprofit?
Yes.
And I know you're on the development side, so you may not have full insights to the operational aspects of this effort, but I'd be interested to know the demographics of the population, kind of going back to Chris's question, just to get a better understanding of who's being served, especially given the proximity of the actual development to certain pockets of East Nashville. Any insights there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know specifics as far as demographics, but I do know just as far as income levels, most of their clientele on the nonprofit side is indigent or homeless. They have very few clients that pay for their own substance abuse recovery rehabilitation. Most of them are homeless, but then on the workforce affordable housing side, we're servicing from 30 to 80%. So we see that as like the next step up from their substance abuse recovery services.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
So I see in the summary, it says 657 individuals received treatment there last year. Or how many are normally, I mean, do you know how many people they can handle, residents or whatever you would call them at one time there? And will your new building increase that number?
Yes, yeah, that is the goal. We're basically taking them from I think they're about 30,000 square feet. We're going to take them up to 75,000 square feet of operating facilities, and they currently at any given time can help roughly about 100 individuals through their 5 different phases. So the goal would be to double that.
How long have they been at this particular site? Do you know?
Since 1964.
Okay, I see. That's when they started. And they've been at that same building all that time.
Yeah, yeah, and they'll be rolling in the land. They'll be contributing that. So they're very invested in this. They really want to see this to fruition, and know a lot of city leaders do as well.
So they own the land, did you say?
Correct.
And so you're purchasing the land from them. Is this the entire property that's could be phase 2 even? I mean,
Correct.
They own everything. You're going to buy it, and then you're going to have this arrangement, a lease back to the nonprofit, which will also have an interest or be a partner in the limited partnership. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I had a follow-up question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding the breakdown. The 193 apartments, that is encompassing, for the lack of a better term, the program participants as well as the workforce development apartments, or is that a separate number?
No, that'll be separate. So the 193 is just the workforce affordable housing component, and then the 75,000 square feet is what will help facilitate the nonprofit services that are currently 100 people at a time, should be able to double that to 200 people at a time.
Okay. And was there a target percentage? I know you said you were envisioning a big part of the program is that they'd be able to move over to the workforce component. Was there a target percentage that you're hoping will come from the program?
That's a good question. I don't think we've talked about targets. I would say really the goal is everybody that graduates through the program, they currently have like a bridgeway crossing, which is kind of like their halfway house, which is like the final step of rehabilitation. So the goal would be everybody that goes through the bridgeway crossing program would be able to then apply for and move into the 193 units on the affordable housing side.
Thank you.
Did you say they have a halfway house now?
Correct.
Is that located somewhere else, or?
That's part of the 75,000. That will be part of the 75,000 square feet.
Okay, I mean, right now if someone graduates, that's the right word, completes this program, then where do they go? I mean, especially if they're homeless, what happens to them?
The end result is really the stability as far as being off whatever drugs it is, having that stability. And once they deem that the person is stable enough to be able to move out on their own, they help them either find housing or find a roommate or find family to live with, but somewhere where it's stable and it's affordable. So that's really the goal, and why we see this as kind of a win-win, where we can provide that housing right next door to their services, so they can really, without leaving too far away or going into an unknown area or what have you, they have a nice quality place to call home that's at actually attainable price point for them as they're leaving the program.
But what kind of rent? I mean, they have to pay something in rent, or you don't have zero rent for people who don't have an income, are you? Or
good question. So when they're leaving the halfway house, I believe employment is a big part of stability and a part of their rehabilitation. So they're expected to have some form of employment if they're able to. So that helps as far as being able to cover those. But then also we're working with MDHA about possibly having project-based vouchers, which will allow for a certain number of units. MDHA hasn't decided yet, but a certain number of units at the 193 units could be a place for them they could take those vouchers, and then whatever they can afford to pay, they will pay.
have had conversations with MDHA, you say?
Yes. Yeah, we've had quite a bit.
They're receptive and would have Section 8?
Yes.
They would allocate to this particular, or to your units, I guess, right? I mean, well, you approve the units, they actually have to approve the rest. These people, is anybody now coming out of the program get Section 8? Is that a routine thing?
Yes, that is correct.
Is there anyone here who could speak to us from the nonprofit, just to help us fill in this connection? I guess our job is not to evaluate these contracts, but if I look at this most cynically, it seems like, you know, you're getting a lovely piece of property in downtown. The potential exists for the nonprofit to get pushed out and be replaced with, you know, more apartments or whatever. And I don't know that I want to be a part of something that, you know, makes you $20 million in 10 years. And that's not what the board is about.
No, I appreciate your comment, Chris. So to address your concern, the goal here is it's not at all to, you know, like you said, to make $20 million and squeeze out the nonprofit. The goal here is we're trying to build the nonprofit facilities that are double their current facilities. Also, their current facilities, I can happily share pictures of them, but they're literally just cinder block buildings that were built in the 60s. So and they haven't ever upgraded these things. I mean, they've put minimal, you know, almost like a Band-Aid on it, just trying to fix it, you know, whatever comes up. But they've never really had nice facilities. And so the goal of this project is to help finance them a brand new facility that's double their square footage, that gives them the capacity to not have to turn people away. They're currently turning down a lot of people because their services are needed more and more. They're literally not able to handle it. And so this would be able to give them nicer facilities where they can operate a more seamless operation over hopefully double the capacity of where they're at currently, and be able to get ownership in the apartments. They are part owners with us. And so they're gaining a significant amount of cash flow from the properties, from the apartments, and then that will allow also long-term cash flow and operations funds for their nonprofit services. So sorry.
Is there any, thank you, Evan, is there any sort of contractual obligation to protect and keep the nonprofit there, just per Chris's concern of it's not you, it's someone else comes along and says, wow, you know, this could be a great condominium complex for the wealthy in the future? Is there any sort of obligation that the nonprofit will have a home and not have the ability to turn it into expensive housing for wealthy people?
Yeah. So the affordability requirements last for 30 years. And then also the nonprofit there, as part of our agreement, that was one of their big concerns. Is like they're like, well, what if something happens to the development partners? What happens to our space? And so, because they are such a crucial piece of this, and because we want to make sure they're 100% on board with this, that was something we tried to address very early on. And so the way the tax credit structure works is they have to be a part of the partnership for the 15-year compliance period. That's just the way the tax code works. But at the end of the 15-year compliance period, they have the right to take full ownership of their building, and we will refinance the debt and basically take it so all the debt is off of their building and only on the residential portion. So they can own their own facility free and clear with no debt. That is one of the most important things for them, because they don't want to be beholden to anybody else, whether it's us or some other future owner, which I don't think we ever plan on leaving this development, but just in the happenstance that were to happen, they don't want to be beholden to others, and they also don't want to be beholden to a mortgage.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. That helps really understand the deeper sense of mission here. And when you come back for round two, it'd be lovely to hear their voice for the record as well. Maybe a representative from them. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. We'd be happy to invite them.
Good point, Chris. So then this is would you call it a 15-year lease to purchase arrangement? Is that how you describe it?
Correct.
I mean, they'll be. Will they pay? Will they be paying? They'll be paying you. At least the nonprofit pays you rental for the facility, and at the end of the 15 years, they will own the facility. Is that right? You give them title to the property. Is that how it will work?
Correct, but it'll be $1 a year lease.
$1 a year lease. Okay. So they're not really paying any rent, but they will get title to their building share that the buildings on that plot of land at the end of the 15 years. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's.
And I assume this facility is licensed by the state of Tennessee and by somebody. I don't know who handles that.
Yes, it's the I couldn't read it off, but I think it's mental health and human services.
Mm-hmm.
Back on that, but yes, they're very highly regarded by that state agency.
I see here it says licensed by the state of Tennessee Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Isaac.
Okay, at this time, we will hold a public hearing on this project since it is first time before us. And again, if there's anyone who is present who wishes to speak for against this project, please speak up at this time. Okay, I'm not seeing any indication anyone here wishes to speak, so we will close the public hearing. Again, we have a resolution before us, which is again for preliminary approval. And again, this will be, presumably they'll be going to Tennessee Housing Development Agency in January, I guess, whenever they start taking applications to get approval for this project. They'll be looking at it, of course, more from the operational standpoint than we are, of course, as to how this is all going to work and finance, et cetera. They'll be underwriting basically a loan. So let me ask, is there anybody that wants to move for adoption of the resolution that's been presented to us?
So
I would say, okay.
Who made the motion?
Isaac.
Isaac, okay. Second, is that Chris?
No, I didn't second it.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay, is that Becky? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, further discussion of the resolution or the project?
I'm thinking about this missing voice of the nonprofit and how I want to deal with that myself. I mean, if somebody wanted to make a motion to table this, I might second that. But certainly, if we don't hear that when they come back for the second and more final round, I'm going to vote no then. It's important to me. Thank you.
Yeah. I agree. We need to know a little bit more about this arrangement might be more details on that would be helpful. It would be helpful to have somebody here present to talk about their project and what they have going on and how this is going to benefit them and their services and you know, I guess, well, it is a partnership. They're really a partner. So in this project, sounds like they become actually a part of the official partnership that owns it. So Evan, it'd be good to have that somebody who is the director. What do you have, an executive director, or who is the head person of the facility?
Yes, Dina Crosley is the executive director. I think she's been there for 20 plus years. And then Todd Friedenberg is the board chairman. He's been board chairman, I think, for 30 years.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely bring them to our next meeting.
Okay. So again, they are going to submit this proposal to THDA, and if it is approved, they get the approval, then they would be back to us again for permanent to get financing. We're giving them a inducement resolution, it's called, to induce the THDA to consider them for the tax credits that would be available to this project. So as I say, so they would be back to us again for final approval, which time we authorize at that time issuance of bonds. So this is not issuing any bonds, it's just giving them preliminary approval. The expectation, if they meet everything, they can come back to us for final approval of issuance of bonds not to exceed what's the amounts, up to about $38 million. Okay, Sarah, if you'll please call the roll.
Dr. Aday? Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Baldwin?
Yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Klingscales?
Yes.
Mr. Moth?
Yes, for this round.
Ms. Sharpe?
Yes.
Chairman Meyer?
Yes.
That's 7-0 in favor of approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Okay. The next matter before us is a proposed project from the Briarville Apartments LP. This is for final approval. We previously had approved them or get preliminary approval. This is for the issuance of not to exceed $24,865,000 in housing bonds for development of housing project called the Briarville Apartments. And I think Mr. Joshua Haston is here with us to talk about that project.
Yes, sir. Thank you for letting me join on, Mr. Meyer, and thank you all for your time and attention. I really appreciate the hard work that you guys put in for the community. Just as he was saying, Mr. Meyer was saying, this is the final resolution. We are on track to close on construction financing next week and start construction immediately. The project consists of 184 apartments, all priced at 60% area median income, to make up of 92 2-beds and 92 3-beds. And just a little bit more about this project is that we've been working on it for, I guess, a little over 2 years now, and not including time to get under contract. It has tremendous support from the community, especially Councilmember Nancy Van Rees, who helped us get the project rezoned, as well as hosted numerous community meetings. And we're also working in partnership with the Housing Authority, who provided their support via a property tax abatement for 10 years on the property, as well as just numerous neighbors who are all in support of the project. In terms of the location, it's in a prime location. For those who are familiar with tax credit financing, it is not in a qualified census tract, meaning it's not a low-income census tract. It's a very up-and-coming neighborhood. In fact, directly across the street from this property are numerous $400,000 for-sale townhomes. So the property is in a very quickly gentrifying area. And so we are extremely supportive, as well as, again, the community, in terms of making sure that this project stays affordable for the long term, for at least 30 years, if not longer. So we can, again, make sure that affordability is long-term for the neighborhood. And with that, I guess I'll just turn it over for questions if you guys have any. Thank you.
Joshua, can you speak to the process of how residents will be selected for this property?
So it's all fair housing. We'll be working with Infield Property Management Company. They're a local group based in actually Music Row, and they are the property managers on a day-to-day basis. So they make sure that all the tenants qualify via income for the property. Make sure that they have passed all the income checks and credit and background checks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? All right, are we ready to consider a resolution for this project, which would be final approval for issuing bonds? Is there a motion for such adoption of such resolution before us?
I move adoption. Chris Moth.
Okay, Chris has moved adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, if Sarah, would you please take the roll?
Dr. Aday,
Yes.
Ms. Baldwin,
Yes.
Ms. Carr, Ms. Clinkscales, Mr. Moth,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpe,
Yes.
Chairman Meyer.
Yes.
It's a vote of 7-0 with approval.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, that concludes our basic business portion of the meeting. We do have a matter that I want to bring up. Dick, our secretary previously, Cindy Dick Brown. Brown was our secretary who went off the board with the new members, went off in September or October here with the new election. And so Dr. Day has been the assistant secretary. So I'd like to propose that we temporarily make him the full secretary. He could sign as assistant secretary. The secretary has to sign a few of these documents in terms of closing. The chairman and the secretary usually sign. Assistant, of course, would sign in place of if the secretary is not available. But if no one has an objection and someone would wish to make a motion to this effect, I'd like to just make him at least temporary. We'll have some elections later on, but let's maybe temporarily make him the full secretary. Is there someone who would be inclined to?
Oh, gladly. I would move that Dr. Day be the secretary until the election process is held.
And I would happily second that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Dr. Day, I didn't ask you willing to serve as secretary?
So thanks for the recommendation.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll take a roll call on that motion. Sarah, please.
Well, Dr. Aday,
Yes.
Ms. Baldwin,
Sorry, trying to get my little button to work. Yes.
Ms. Carr,
Yeah.
Ms. Clinkscales, Mr. Moth, Ms. Sharpe,
Yes.
and Chairman Meyer.
Yes.
7-0 with approval of Mr. Day being the secretary, or Dr. Day being the secretary.
Thank you all. We have information that's submitted to us. Of course, you got on the previous issues, really the Blakeford, I guess, is the only one that has closed since our last meeting, and that information is submitted to you, and I think they're already under construction. That's the Blakeford and Green Hills Retirement Center.
I have a question about the debt obligation there. It's just informational. It's not, I see that the sort of fees they're paying to financial advisors is about $100,000. And I guess I had a question, like when somebody like the Blakeford, they want to go issue a bond and round up the $50 million, et cetera. What's the role of the financial advisors in that for them? Is there a 90-second story there that can be told? And why is their payoff sort of tied to the closing of the bond?
Mr. Meyer, I'll be glad to address that. I think a lot of, especially some of the larger institutions that borrowing a debt above a certain amount, hire a financial advisor early in the process to help them look at all their different options to structure their debt. And Blakeford, like a lot of other institutions, layer their debt. So they may do some debt with the public markets. This particular instance, they also did 2 series of debt with 2 banks because they are looking at their long-term debt service. And so they want it to be relatively even over time. And so they hire a professional who's strictly working for them to help them determine what's best. And for example, at the last meeting, we also saw Trevecca, who has a financial advisor who's doing a similar approach for them. So I think that's more than probably 90 words, but.
No, that actually helps a lot. I sort of got the council part, from buying houses, but it's more complex. That's great.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any other old business or any new business? So I guess new business, I think there's a potential for a meeting in January. Cindy Barnett, you want to explain what's on the prospect?
Yes. You could see from today's meeting, and we have already been asked for a meeting in early January. THDA opens up their application round in January of each year, and it's a very competitive process. And so all these applicants that have been coming to us for the last few months are all trying to be the first ones in the door. And so since this meeting was set, we've already received requests from 2 other groups that would like to come early January for preliminary approvals, just like we heard today, for 2 other different projects. And I wanted to go ahead and mention that. Sarah and I will be in touch with you. We've been specifically asked for Monday, January the 11th. If everyone could check their calendars, and then we'll be back in touch with you just to make sure that works. But they've requested that date in particular because THDA tends to open up the application process either later that week each year or the following week. So, but we'll be back in touch with you. But if any of you immediately know that date does not work, feel free to reach out to Sarah and me, and we'll try to find another date. So I did want to mention that.
Thanks for that nice heads up, Cindy.
Absolutely. And Mondays seem to be, I know for some of you, Monday's your best day, and it seems to be a good day before the week gets away from the rest of us. So, we can continue to try to do Mondays if that's generally when folks are available.
And to our new members, Anitha and Malika, as I'm sure Cindy Barnett has already related to you, we don't have any regularly scheduled monthly meetings. They're kind of as, we get projects in. In the past, we've gone several months maybe without a meeting, but of late, like you say, particularly this time of year, the new year coming, people want to do housing projects. The housing agency gets tax credits that they can allocate, and they're of course statewide agencies, so they're competing with people from Memphis and all parts of the state, and so they're always interested obviously in getting their projects in first. So the extent that we can help them by giving at least preliminary approval, then they can take their applications the first time, but available and file them with the Tennessee Housing Development Agency. And as I say, we never know, you know, as people come up with projects, we tried then to accommodate them and schedule meetings. And as I say, we really haven't had a, you know, even a regular meeting day. We've done Tuesdays, we've done Wednesdays, we've done Thursdays. And I guess we've done, I don't know if last time was Monday, but it seems like Monday is, we've moved to Monday here now. And of course, we don't have to worry about meeting space for the present time. That was also not a problem. But I mean, when we met at the courthouse, we had to coordinate and make sure there was a meeting room available there. But we don't need, or the library, we met some, but we don't need to. That's not a concern right now. So, you know, that space is not a worry. It's just a matter of we can get all the members together. So appreciate you all making yourselves available today. Thank you very much. Glad that everybody could attend, and hopefully, like you say, at least tentatively mark your schedules for the calendars for when you get the calendar. I don't know if everybody's got a 2021 calendar yet, but anyway, or it's on your phone, so you can put it in your phone, I guess, or whatever, that we may meet on the 4th, on the 11th of January, potential meeting. Okay. All right. If there's no further business, anyone else said anything else to bring up, we'll stand in adjournment. Thank you all again for your attendance.
Welcome new people.
Well, welcome.
Everybody have a great holiday season.
Enjoy the holidays. That's right.
Happy New
Everybody.
Year. January.
Thank you.
Bye.